I ended up finding so much wild stuff while I was at the Arkansas Retro Expo. I just had to put everything together to show you everything that I ended up buying. This was some crazy stuff. So I ended up heading into the expo itself, and the first booth that I came across was from the Culture Gamer, where I ended up finding We Heart Katamari, or if you're a lame one, we love Katamari, and for 20 bucks, this was in really good condition. Then I ended up finding Age of Empires Mythology and Kirby Superstar Ultra for the Nintendo DS as well. And I ended up getting all three of these in a bundle deal. Now, Culture Gamer recognized me and said, "Hey, you want to do a deal?" And I said, "Of course." And so we went ahead and made that deal for those three games, which was totally awesome. And then I turned right around to the next booth, which happened to be Retro Rick's booth, where I looked around and I ended up finding Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey completely sealed for 45 bucks for the 3DS, so obviously I had to pick that up. Now, I did look around in Rick's booth a little bit more trying to find something else to pick up, but unfortunately, all I ended up getting was that 3DS game. I did end up talking to Rick, and which was awesome. I hadn't seen him in a while, so it was cool to catch up for a little bit, so that was awesome. And then I made my way to this next booth here, where I ended up looking through it for a little bit, and then I made my way to the 3DS section, where I ended up finding two games that I ended up grabbing here. First off, Yokai Watch, and then also Mario Tennis Open for the 3DS. Both of these games were priced fairly well, and they actually ended up doing a bundle deal, which was even better, so I can't complain about that at all, which was awesome. So then I ended up going to this next booth where my wife actually ended up getting something. First off, those things looked awesome, but she had to get this Hello Kitty Game Boy Pocket, which was absolutely awesome. It was a great deal, so we ended up getting it. And I think it came with like a Kirby game, which was interesting as well. But then we made our way to this next booth that had a bunch of heat. There was so much crazy stuff in this booth. I cannot believe that there was just all this insane stuff. And then a little 3DS section here hidden away. And then that's when I saw this Neo Geo Pocket Color still in the blister pack. I wish I was rich because I would have picked this up. This was insane to have. And then a 4-pack blister pack as well was just insane to see. The guy I talked to had bought a bunch of games, and these just happened to be in it, and it was crazy to see that. I wish I had that in my collection. That console is so unique and so cool. But then I kind of looked through some 3DS games, but didn't find anything, except at this next booth, I ended up finding, or rather my wife ended up finding, this Mario Nintendo DS case, which on the top held games, and then down below, you could actually open it up if you could have two hands and weren't videoing, and put a console down there. And then I continued and moved on to this next booth, where I ended up getting that Kingdom Hearts game for the 3DS. My wife wanted to play it, so we went ahead and grabbed that. At first, we were kind of talking about whether or not we should get it, and we went ahead and ended up grabbing it. Then I continued on. In that same booth, I was looking around, hoping to find more stuff. I made my way to the PS4 section, and they had a few more 3DS games over here. And I ended up seeing Metroid Federation Force, but I didn't want to spend that much money yet. But I kept my eye on it, and I made a mental note. That was crazy to see right off the bat there. But then I continued on looking through to see maybe if I missed something here and there. I went over to the PS2 section as well and checked that out. And then down below underneath, I almost forgot that I saw this Switch game that caught my eye. I didn't end up picking it up. But down below underneath the table was a tub filled with random accessories. And so I kind of looked to see if there was anything there, but I only ended up getting those 3DS games, or that one 3DS game, and then I moved on to this booth where I ended up finding this Pokemon Diamond and Pokemon Pearl Nintendo DS case, which was pretty cool, For $5 for me, that was a no-brainer. Then this next booth had some heavy hitters in this case. I found a Game Boy, GameCube disc complete in the box, as well as Guitar Man, which was crazy. And then I kind of went to the section where I was gonna actually spend some money and find some stuff that was within my budget. And so I made my way to the PS2 section, where I looked around and I ended up finding Star Wars Super Bad Racing, which is a crazy over-the-top Star Wars racing game. All of the characters have big heads, which is crazy. And after I kind of looked through that, I ended up going to their 3DS section, where I looked for a little bit, and then I actually ended up finding something good here. I kind of checked a little bit for a while now, and then that is where I ended up finding Metroid Samus Returns, which was awesome, and a game that I have been wanting to play, so I ended up grabbing that. Then this next booth ended up having a plushie bin with $2, and I found this Baby Mario for $2, but the guy was a fan of the channel and wouldn't let me pay for it. So shout out to you if you did that. That was amazing. I love plushes. I would have gladly paid the $2, but that is what it is. And then I went to this booth towards the front where I found Kid Icarus Uprising for the 3DS for $70, which is a lot of money, but it was a game that I had on my list and I was definitely interested in picking it up. But that's not all that I ended up picking up, because I made my way to this last booth where I ended up finding A Legend of Zelda: A Link Between Worlds for the DS. This game has been a game that I've wanted to play and I've never actually played before, so I had to grab that while I was here. And then I ended up finding some insane games. This is where I spent the rest of my money, honestly. Tamagotchi Life and Metroid Prime Federation Force. I ended up buying both of these and spent all my money. So overall, I ended up spending a bunch of money on some 3DS games, some DS games, some PS2 games, this awesome Nintendo DS Pokemon Diamond and Pearl case, which was crazy. This little Mario, Baby Mario, which was cool. My wife ended up grabbing this Hello Kitty Game Boy Pocket, which was absolutely insane. And it came with a pink Japanese Kirby game that I don't know anything about, so that was cool. But overall, I found some crazy stuff. Some great PS2 titles here. We've got We Heart Katamari or Star Wars Super Bad Racing. This game is an over-the-top game where you race around basically from like episode 1 style. And then obviously Katamari, you roll around and pick things up until you get bigger and bigger. Absolutely amazing. And then you saw me pick up 2 regular Nintendo DS games. I'm a huge fan of Age of Empires, which is sometimes a problem because the last time I played it for 13 hours straight. But I've never played Age of Empires Mythologies, and I'm interested to see how it plays on the DS. If you know if this game is good or bad, comment down below and let me know. And then, if you didn't know, I'm a big fan of Kirby, and this is a Kirby game that I don't have in my collection, and that is Kirby Superstar Ultra. I had to grab this when I saw it. It's been on my list for a little bit, and I'm glad that I found it. And then speaking of kind of figuring out some lists here, I'll go from the cheaper end probably. Yokai Watch for 20 and then Mario Tennis Open for 15. I think I ended up getting these for 30 if I remember correctly, so that's a good deal there. We already talked about the Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story plus Bowser Jr.'s Journey. That's a mouthful. This is completely sealed, and for $45, I figured I'd end up having to pick that up. And then that one booth, I ended up finding Metroid Samus Returns, and then right next to that, I ended up finding Kingdom Hearts 3D Dream Drop Distance as well. Both of those were kind of near each other. And then, where I spent the majority of the money, Kid Icarus Uprising. This game has gone crazy in value. I know this is the UAE version, but it'll still work in my 3DS, so I'm not complaining there. Then I got Zelda: A Link Between Worlds at the last booth. And then I spent all the money. Let's be real here. This is where most of my money went. It was 75 bucks for Metroid Prime Federation Force, which I'm excited to play. And then Tamagotchi Life. I ended up getting this for my wife. Honestly, I don't think this is up my alley. I feel like she'll enjoy this, but I probably won't. So at least she'll enjoy it, and then we'll add it to the collection. But I probably wouldn't have picked this up if she wasn't with me. However, I did end up finding a ton of crazy stuff. All of this stuff was awesome to find. This was an awesome expo put on by Arkansas Picker. If you didn't know, I've made a little other videos about this place, but I wanted to talk about some things I didn't necessarily talk about in that video and some that I did. So you got a mix of everything. I got a bunch of games here. These were all the games that cost me a bunch of money. This Game Boy is absolutely amazing. I love the Game Boy Pocket, so to find this from my wife was absolutely awesome. And again, I can't go wrong with finding weird and wacky stuff that people don't value much, but I think is always awesome to find. So I ended up having a ton of fun at this convention. And so if you went there and said, "What's up?" Thanks for meeting me. Thanks for stopping by and talking to me or anything like that. But shout out to Arkansas Picker or anyone else that I saw there that we talked, and it was a blast. I met some new friends, and I can't wait to go till next year. So if you're in the Arkansas area, you might want to check it out for next year. But I got some games to play, so I got to get out of here. So check that video out if you haven't already. But I'm really excited to play some of these 3DS games. I made a full video, if you haven't checked that video out, about it. I didn't talk about all those games, but I did talk about some, so you might see some crossover there. But enough about that. I got to get out of here, so check that video out if you haven't already.